Hey guys, this is episode 11 of Noodle Time. Welcome. Here with me is Tony Rubio at the airport, currently waiting for Tetsugal to arrive with Web Tilton getting the luggage. Tony, say hello.
Hello guys, here, camping out, binoculars looking for Ted Seagal, the new owner, but he hasn't come yet. And honestly, I think this is like episode 10.5, by the way, a bonus episode. We can't.
Yeah, but it's still kind of like it has like a length of an episode with an interview. So yeah.
With the length, honestly, this just puts it to episode 12 because we got our first player interview. We got the long lost son of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the Swedish beast, Erik McCue, on today.
Yeah, it's two sons with Adam Lundqvist, but yeah, he's technically a son of Zlatan, but yeah.
No, it was we just finished recording with Erik, and it was definitely obviously our first interview, but definitely one to listen to all the way through, even though it is a bit of a long one. Really get to know Erik, how he's doing in the USL, and what's to come for him in the next couple of years.
For sure, it's a like you said, even though it's a pretty long one, it's worth listening to. We were hoping to do 30 minutes, but like the conversation was so good, we ended up doing around 50. So it's worth it though. So yeah, without further ado, this is gonna be the interview with Erik McCue, our first ever interview, and I hope you guys like it. Alrighty, guys. So welcome to a special episode of Noodle Time. Here with me is obviously a Tony Rubio, the special one, and also the first interview ever in the Noodle Times history. You may know him, current Dynamo Academy product that was signed back in 2018, and currently playing for the Charleston Battery out on loan for the season. This is going to be Erik McCue. Erik, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? No, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is something that has been in the works for a while. We've been hoping to interview at least one Dynamo player at some point, and we're finally here, and we're pretty excited to have Erik on the show, and yeah, it's been something that we're working for a long time, and yeah, like the first question that we've been hoping to ask you is how's it been over there in Charleston? Obviously, you got your first professional goal, which obviously we're pretty excited. We've been watching the replay a while, and like just that finish, like it seemed like a striker's finish too, because like it was from a very tough angle. Just beat the defender and the keeper from like I would say like the lower 90 almost, and yeah, like how's it been over there?
Well, it's been quite a good move for me, honestly. I think so far that I've been here, the city's been great. My relationship with the players and the staff has been amazing, honestly. A really welcoming system. I've had a lot of fun training here in the preseason. We were able to play Atlanta United in a preseason game, and that was really fun. I was able to play 120 minutes. I was pretty tired after that game.
Oh, dang.
But the move has been great. Like I said, my relationship with some of the people in the club are really good, and being able to hop in a few games and, like you said, obviously score my first goal has been great. And I mean, yeah, I watched over that replay a few times too, because honestly, in the moment, like stuff will happen like so fast. I had no time to think about it. It just kind of went off instinct. But watching back on the replay, I looked at the angle and I was definitely surprised at how I was able to squeeze it in. But definitely a very, very nice finish. Not a nice finish, but a nice feeling to get my first goal. I was very happy.
It was a nice finish too.
yeah. A decent finish. We'll put it at that.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, like Tony and I are like pretty much like looking forward for your development and like whatever happens like over the course of the season. And like another thing that we were hoping to ask is like how like coming from like a year like of the pandemic, obviously 2010 being like a pretty tough year for the players and all the teams across like MLS and USL Championship. How have you guys been dealing with the pandemic? Like not only within your team, like the Dynamo as well as the Charleston, but also like your family and your close relatives?
Yeah, I think when it comes because I think a lot of people have thought, when the new year hit, like, oh, all the problems with COVID were going to go away. Like, no one would have to worry about anything anymore. And that was definitely not the case. So, any type of away trip we were taking, any trip at all, obviously masks were up, tests were in. We had to be very, very careful. But honestly, I think the repercussions for us, like as players, have been just obviously the protocols have been really strict, and we've known that for a while now. We're all kind of used to it too. But I think our team has been like very blessed to be like one of the first teams, or if not the first team in the USL to be completely vaccinated. So that was a very, very nice feeling. I think we got it early, actually the very, very late preseason. So, a lot of us felt some stuff, after in training, when you get the vaccine, you kind of feel a little bit sick. So we had like a day or two off. But since then, I mean, it's been honestly like a massive weight lifted off my shoulders, just because because I already had COVID, and I might have even gotten it a second time because I had a COVID scare being here, like a second week of preseason. But I really did not want to be involved with this virus anymore at all. So I was done with it. I already had it once. I was out of training, missed a few games, so it was irritating enough as it was. And I was lucky to not get really bad symptoms. I know some of my teammates got really, really bad symptoms, hospitalized even. And, during that time we were all really worried about them. But obviously now with the vaccine being rolled out to everyone, like I'm really happy my whole team has been vaccinated. Like it's a very, very nice feeling, and relatives, friends are starting to roll around to get vaccinated too. So, it seems like it's slowly fading away. It's not like New Year's came around, COVID's completely gone. So it's getting there eventually.
And how was just kind of the past year when there was the play stoppage? How were you keeping busy? Were you just in Houston, or were you somewhere else with your family before your loan started?
So last year, around like March, April, May, that time when it was, almost complete lockdown in the US, it was a very weird time. A lot of my teammates, like sometimes, especially we had just gotten started with the season, had one game, I think, and then everything got shut down.
Yeah.
So I came back to Houston because I was actually on loan with RGV. Then for like about a month, and everything got shut down. So I was sitting there in McAllen, Texas, and I was just like, if this doesn't seem to be letting up at all. So I drove home, and from then on it was 2 months of quarantine, it felt like, and just we slowly started to come back into training because all of us players, like we get into this routine of training every day. You kind of like almost switch like your brain off for a while, because until like 1 or 2 p.m. every day you're going to be busy, you're going to be doing the same thing you love all the time, and you always will account for that in your day. And then suddenly it all stops, and you're kind of just wondering like, when is it going to stop? Like, when are we going to return back to play? When are things going to go back to normal? And I remember most of us thought it was going to be like 2 weeks at the very beginning, so we were very wrong about that. But yeah, I mean, obviously with the trainings and everything, we would go out, like run, do something with the ball almost every single day. Footballers, like we can't not do something all the time. And that's what I was doing. I was running around Memorial Park, around my area, around my house. And basically I started training along with my Swedish teammate Adam Lundqvist. And, when we started to get back a little bit, where Dynamo were giving us specific workouts to a return to play protocol, which we would actually come and like train individually as a team, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's when we really got, like, we had to get down to business, and really, really work on our running and fitness and everything. So I work with him, and, he's got great stamina. So that was a very, very tough time to be running along with him. These mile runs and these, suicide runs. He's a quick guy, so that definitely pushed my fitness. But it was a weird time for sure. It was kind of day by day. Everyone was figuring it out as we went along, and just try to squeeze in as much football as we can during that time. So
yeah, for sure. Adam definitely is probably the guy that gets subbed out the least for the Dynamo. So yeah, I can imagine how that is. But
he just runs and runs, man.
Yeah, it's also the period between like when it's the pandemic is actually like kicked up a notch, which was back in March. Like just that period between like March up until this point, like the uncertainty, like it was something interesting to look at, especially for the professional players that had to obviously they had to like stay in shape and with the pandemic just starting and like the scare and the effects of the virus, and it was pretty worrisome at one point for me, and yeah, it's good to know like over the course of time as we've been adapting through the virus, there's been like measures taking place up till this point where like the vaccine is really available for like almost everyone, and yeah, like it's great to hear like Charleston being like the first team in USL Championship to have the whole team vaccinated, which is great.
Yeah, no, it was a big relief. Honestly, I was really happy to hear we were getting it because I didn't really know what was happening with Houston before I left, and I kind of asked them like, "Ooh, am I going to be able to get vaccinated before I leave?" But they got vaccinated a little while after I left. Obviously, all the MLS teams did. It was very high priority, but definitely a huge relief that we got ourselves vaccinated, just because we can just worry a bit less. Even here, like they've stopped mandating masks in stores and everything, which was a very weird change. Go for probably, which was like a year straight of always you have to remember your mask no matter where you go, and then all of a sudden you're walking in the stores, you almost feel naked in a way. It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah, I feel like in Texas it happened probably way earlier than South Carolina, but we'll circle back to how you're doing with Charleston later on in the episode. But I think Andres kind of wanted to get you talking maybe a little about where you began and your journey all throughout the world, from what we've read up on you.
Yeah. It's always a bit of a long story, so I think I'll just try to make sure to relate it to football as much as I can. But basically, I was born in Sweden and raised in Thailand until I was about 7 years old. And during that time, obviously growing up during those years of your life, you kind of start to associate a certain place with home. And that's just kind of what I did with Thailand and where I lived. So a lot of my early memories have a lot to do with being in Thailand, the very like warm, loving people there, the beach, and hot weather. So it was quite an amazing time to be there, especially there were a lot of different like kids in my situation that were living there too. A lot of people will get a bit confused when I say, I lived in Asia for like 14 years of my life, and they'll think that I was just, in like the local schools trying to understand the language. Like that's not what it was like. I was with like kids that were just from all around the world that were just in the same situation as me, with a dad or a mom that their job forced them to relocate. So, I was there obviously when I was growing up, being really young in Thailand. We were playing all kinds of sports, and the only sport I wanted to play was soccer. Hated almost every other thing. Well, I didn't hate it. I just really didn't want to do it. And football was like the only thing I'd play at recess, lunch, after school, all the time. Except the one thing I hated being was goalkeeper. So there's no shot I was ever going into goal. But then when I was about 7 years old, I moved to Houston for a year and a half. I actually lived out in Kingwood during that time, and tried all the American sports I could, flag football, like basketball. And it's very ironic because I'm very tall, but I'm horrible at basketball. Not going to talk about that, but during my time in Houston, I tried to play as much soccer as I could. And then I found out I was moving to China. I lived there for about 4.5 years. And I only was able to play like football on a real field like once a week, maybe. So during that time where I was about like 9 to 13 years old, I was very, very limited on the amount of football I could play. Plus, the pollution was so bad sometimes outside that we were on a mandate from the government to stay inside. Like it was.
What city was it?
We lived in Chengdu in like Sichuan province. It's like kind of in the middle of China, but massive population, millions and millions of people. I think it was like 12 million people when I was living there.
No, dang, yeah.
Man.
Kind of like
small at all.
Oh, it's like the size of a small nation. So
yeah,
kind of makes you think about how many people were there. But honestly, the culture that I experienced in China was amazing. You know, we would take like some school trips to go see like different monuments and temples, and you know, being able to see like the Great Wall of China and stuff. Like, it was amazing, and the history and like heritage of the country is incredible. You know, some of the things I was able to see and learn about. I took Mandarin as well, but that did not stick, sadly. Very hard language to learn.
Yeah.
After that, I ended up moving back to Thailand for like my 6th to 9th grade, and that's where I really got into football a lot more. I started playing on the club level, and I had a really great coach, Andy Clausen, who he really kind of got me serious about it. I always loved football. I always wanted to be a pro, but I wanted it to happen, but I didn't really think it was going to. But there, it kind of became real. So, you know, when I got to my 9th grade, I kind of realized that if I was going to be playing, like have a chance at even playing professional, I had to move. Like, I couldn't stay in Thailand, even though I loved the country so much. I still consider it like kind of my home. I knew just for football, like it wasn't where I could be. Like, I was kind of growing out of the level that was there, and I looked into places in Europe and America to go to boarding school, and one of the ones that came up was the DC United Academy. So I was there for a year and a half, and quite honestly, I didn't have a great experience there. I spent quite a bit of time injured and didn't have a great amount of time on the field. So I was quite frustrated, and my parents told me they were moving to Houston. So from then on, I made the decision to try out for Houston. The coach back then loved me. Moved to Houston, and from there, I mean, I just had a really good season, no injuries, a solid year with the U17s, and then a little bit with the U19s, and then I was able to sign my pro contract. And it was pretty funny because like that same week that I signed, I was like an inch away from signing with Wake Forest, and I got called into a meeting with Matt Jordan, and he was like, "Eric, do you really want to go to college?" And I was like, "No, not at all. I don't want to. Like, please, if this is gonna happen, make it happen now." So, it was the perfect timing, honestly, and yeah, that's pretty much what's happened all the way up to 2018. So, that's the story in regards to football. It's a long one.
You definitely have a lot to talk about.
Yes, for sure.
Around the dinner table.
Yeah.
But when you were at DC, did you play with any of those guys that are kind of gone through the system, like Eric Williamson or I think Kevin Paredes?
Kevin. No, I never played with Kevin. I played with Moses Nyman.
Oh, Moses Nyman, yeah.
Yeah, he's a baller. That kid, like he would train
coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, he would train up with us, play games with us, and just some of the stuff that I saw him do in games and training was unreal. So I know he'll go far. He has a lot of loyalty to DC just because, you know, they treated him so well. But yeah, I played with him. I never got to see Kevin Paredes. Me and him have a good relationship now where we both share the same agent, so we're able to communicate once in a while. And yeah, I think other than that, there are a few guys obviously that I still keep in contact with, but you know, they aren't really doing. They're not like on the DC United like first team or anything. So
yeah,
like that.
And when you were in Thailand, you were playing for the academy of the professional team there, right?
I did for a little while, yes. But mostly I played with a smaller club team. They're called FC Bangkok, and I think they like established themselves like a year after I moved there. So they're a very new club, and I got really lucky with the coaching staff that was there because, I mean, they knew exactly like how I needed to be coached, especially when I was in those like years of my development. I was growing very fast, and
I just shot up overnight.
Yeah, it was a lot of growing pains, so that wasn't the best. But I played as a holding midfielder until I was in 9th grade, until I moved to DC. You know, I moved to the US, and they took one look at me, and I was tall, and they're like, "No, you're center back. Go back there." So it definitely helps. You know, I'm able to kind of some people will be surprised with some like the skills I'm able to do, like juggling and everything, and it's like, well, it's because I haven't been a center back my whole life at least.
Yeah.
So I'm not too limited there.
Yeah, that's quite a story, honestly. Like I'm originally from Venezuela, and I moved to Houston back in 2010. And when I started playing soccer, I mostly played as a goalkeeper from middle school up to high school, and which is pretty funny since that's not the position you're quite fond of. But we did manage to get to the Final Four in state, but like it was a pretty interesting soccer journey. Obviously not compared to yours, but well, yeah, like we can't relate in a sense, yeah.
You definitely had the one thing that I was lacking, which was playing goalkeeper. So I think you have that base covered.
Yeah, and moving from like 2018 up until 2019, that was a pretty significant year for you, since that's the game that you made the appearance in the MLS homegrown game during the MLS All-Star Week, and also like that was the year that you made the appearance for RGVFC a few times. And like focusing on the MLS homegrown game, how was your experience over in Orlando? Because I did manage to watch the homegrown game in Orlando, since I was in vacation visiting family, and I had to watch your game, obviously. And and I think, if I recall correctly, that game it was, I guess, Guadalajara youth, and you guys lost by a goal, if I recall correctly. But overall, like how was the experience like on and off the field for you in Orlando?
Well, actually, we did end up tying and winning on penalties, which was very nice.
I remember
thanks for the
that,
correction.
actually.
But
Yeah. No, it was a while back, but yeah, I mean, the whole experience was amazing. I loved it, honestly. I think I was able to surround myself with a lot of like younger kids in the league that were like signed professionally as well with their team. So it was great to speak with them, train with them, and just see what it was like, because a lot of them have had that experience in terms of like playing with players at your age that are of like quite a high level, and I never really got that in terms of like playing with like national teams, like youth national teams, and that's something I've always wanted to do. And I ended up getting a youth national team call up to Sweden in my first year, but I sadly couldn't go because of an injury. So that's obviously a goal I have in mind still. I really want to be able to be called up to the youth national teams for Sweden or the US. But yeah, I mean, being surrounded by all those players, I was really good mates on the trip with like Brendan Aronson, Brian Reynolds and stuff. So those are two kids that have really made a name for themselves in football in the last 6 to 12 months, so they've been doing really, really well. And speaking with them, with their experience with the Philadelphia Union, FC Dallas, it was really great just to see like what they're doing, how their trainings were, just how it was in terms of like relationships with the players and the coaches. And that's something that I was looking for a long time, because I remember my first year, for the entire year, like there was a pretty big age gap between me and the next youngest player. I think it was like 4 years, like 5 years. So I definitely at times felt that I was very, very young compared to the rest of the team, sitting there talking about like picking up their kids from school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
getting a mortgage on their house.
yeah, exactly. There's only so much you can talk to them about, but yeah, I mean, speaking with them, it was great. Like obviously it was crazy meeting some of the players that were at the All-Star game then. There was sitting next to the table at me was like Bastian Schweinsteiger, Wayne Rooney, Zlatan, like Luis Nani, like some like crazy names, just like names I would play FIFA with when I was young. Like even still did back then, and it was just unreal to me, because just seeing them and like seeing how they trained and how they played and stuff, it was an amazing experience just to be able to talk to them and like learn some stuff from them. And I was able to speak with like Zlatan in Swedish for like 15 minutes when he was in the gym, so like that was quite like
how was that conversation?
Yeah, I mean it was crazy. He's so much nicer of a guy than people make him out to be, honestly. I basically was walking back with a player from Chicago Fire, and I saw him in the gym, and I was just like, I mean, I can't not talk to him. Like, he's Zlatan. Like, you should see like the culture in Sweden around Zlatan is crazy. He's regarded as a god, honestly. Yeah. So I just couldn't not say hi to him. And I walked in, I was like, hey, like, I'm really sorry, but I need to say hi to him. Like I'm the only the Swedish guy here. Like I need to talk to him. And the trainers were really chill, and he was really relaxed as well. And just being able to speak to him, he was just asking me about like football, Houston, and he was really surprised that like I could speak Swedish. I could tell like his face changed very quickly in between like when I was walking up to him and then when I opened my mouth and said Swedish words. So I could tell he was like, oh, like, okay, here's another one. And then he was just surprised because he just obviously didn't know anything about me. So he was really chill. He was a really, really chill guy. I love talking to him. And just kind of being able to see someone that I idolized as like a kid and being able to talk to them and just chill was a really cool experience. So I think honestly, overall, I will always keep that experience like very, very close to my heart because like being able to play with those guys, they're on a really, really high level, be able to compete with them and play well in the game. Like it was amazing overall. I think a really, really good experience.
No, that's so dope. But we want to ask you about Zlatan, so I finally got the response there. But, while we're on the topic of kind of your relationship with some of those guys you met there. Tell us a little bit about kind of your relationship with Adam Lundqvist, because we know you guys are close. At least it seems so. And then just with any of the other homegrowns or any of the players on the Dynamo that you've kind of came up with, like who are kind of your go-to guys that you don't mind talking to off the field either. Yeah,
of course. I mean, first, like speaking with Adam, like obviously when I was signed. When I was first signed, he signed like I think like a month or two afterwards. I can't really remember, but it was a bit of like an off, like not necessarily right when the season started, but a little bit like into like halfway through the season. So basically we got a phone call from like Matt Jordan saying, we have a Swedish guy coming in. We know your mom and you can speak Swedish. We really like for you to like welcome him to the team. So basically like, we were the first like family to welcome him to Houston, and having that Swedish connection where we can, enjoy like meals off the field where like, we cook Swedish meals for them to come over, have like those classic Swedish pastries, just being able to speak Swedish even for a dinner for a little while. I think it definitely helped him a lot with his adjustment to the team and to America. And I mean, his English has gone like perfect since then. So yeah, he's done really, really well. But me and him, like I kind of consider him like an older brother, just with stuff like he'll be able to teach me stuff in training. And, my Swedish isn't like completely fluent since I never really lived there. So, helps me with my Swedish a little bit. He'll correct me here and there. And, me and him have always been really close. Like he pushes me really hard to, obviously to keep up with him, like when we were training together in quarantine. And, I've always viewed him as an older brother for sure. And, our families have been really close since he moved here. And honestly, I'm also really, really close to Marcelo Palomino and Sam Junqua. Those two, I think we've become really close just because in my first year, especially me and Sam got really close because he was the next youngest player, like what I spoke about earlier. So being able to talk with him and chill with him, being that one guy in training you can always talk to, it was really nice. But especially now with Marcelo being signed to the team, he's just a few months younger than me, and being able to train with each other and have another guy that's like your age is very nice. Especially when you're training with men all the time. You can sometimes forget how old you are. You haven't done all the things that they've done. You haven't been a professional for like 8 or 9 or 10 years like them. So it's always a bit of a different situation. But
when you're training with your Uncle Boniek and Minor.
Yeah, honestly, they could be my like dad and uncle, honestly. So, but yeah, I mean those three have been like great friends on the team, and we always keep in close contact off the field. So, it's been really good.
No, yeah, it's great to hear the chemistry between you, Palomino, and Junqua. Obviously, Junqua having to deal with like some injuries early in the preseason, and just right now getting into the first team, and also Palomino, also kind of like the same boat as you are, but obviously with a different team, with a season loan, and honestly, just happy that you guys are getting those minutes out on the field, getting that experience, and going back to 2019, I was just hoping to ask, like, during your time with RGBFC, was that like a season, like even though the season wasn't that great and numbers wise, like in the sense of results, like was that time at RGBFC like a good like just like a good experience like overall, to like experience the league, experience like how teams play, like the physical play, like technical play, right before joining Charleston, sorry.
Yeah. I think I'll always any minutes that I can get on the field, I'll always appreciate, just because I'm always learning, and being able to get comfortable with the tempo of a league is really important. You know, you'll see players that transfer leagues, and you know, people always give them a hard time in terms of like being adjusted to the tempo of the league, the aggression, maybe the pace, and the rhythm of like how they play. But you know, sometimes it does take a little while, and I'm happy that I was able to get some minutes under my belt in RGV, even at right back, just to get on the field and just feel what it's like, you know. And yeah, I mean, the times at RGV they've always been challenging for me, but they've been helpful nonetheless. You know, being able to get on the field, you know, even last year, I felt like I was quite there were some things I definitely needed to mature upon, you know, on and off the field. And I ended up figuring those things out. So I think it helped me a whole lot for this year at Charleston. So that's why I'm feeling a whole lot more ready and confident on the field.
Was that the time you spent at RGB? I mean, like, in all honesty, we know how that relationship was kind of in between the Dynamo and RGB. It seems like it's a little bit rocky, and obviously now it's coming to an end. But like when you were down there, is that like one of the, I guess, hardest moments you've experienced so far in your career? Does it kind of feel lonely to go all the way to McAllen, to a new place where you don't really know the guys as well? How was that in terms of dealing with, if it was hard?
Yeah, I think like what I said a bit earlier, you know, it's always challenging, and going out on loan or doing anything really in football can always come with its own challenges. And I would say that sometimes a trip down there can be tough, because for me, I never really knew how long I'd be down there for. You know, it could be for a month, 2 months, or 6 months. Like, I would never know. So moving down there, and the staff and the players, you know, they always welcome me with open arms. Like they knew I was young. They knew I had a lot to learn. So, and the people that know me, especially on the field, like they know I don't have the mentality that I'm just, like, think I'm just like big stuff. You know what I mean? Like I would never go down there and just think that I'm like big headed, you know. So I was always down there to work and prove to myself that I could play in the league and push my way into the first team. So, you know, it was always business. But
how is that? Yeah. How is that? Just to get a little insight, when you're not like having appearances for the Dynamo, when you get sent down on a short term loan, like you said, you don't know how long you're going to be there. Is there like any hostility at all when you come down and you know you're starting right away? Like, is the other person that, I don't know, you're starting over, for example, that week, like, did you ever sense anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really understandable feeling, because anytime, the reason why I said what I said in terms of like always you have to be humble is because football can change so fast. Like in a year's time, like I could have found myself in the exact same position in terms of being at a club in the USL where they're associated with the first team and they have to send down a young center back to get minutes. You know, so you can never like get too comfortable in any position you are, and that's why you have to just work so hard, because at any moment it can change and you can find yourself in the position of the guy next to you. So you can never really take anything for granted, and you can't really like ever like allow those kind of things to bother you, or you know, to get personal, honestly, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not even, has nothing to do with you as a player, maybe nothing to do with them as a player. They might have had a fantastic week in training, you might have been horrible in training every day, but at the end of the day, it's not your decision. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to brush to the side and you worry about another day.
Definitely a part of football that we don't see every day, so it's kind of interesting to hear your take on it. But I mean, for sure. At the end of the day, it's like somebody's livelihood, and yours too. So it's like that's where it gets real.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like just experiencing, like you just mentioned, like the vibes in the locker room, your expectations for like if you wanted to play or not. Like obviously those are like the pretty tough questions that at the end of the day it comes down to like the head coach and like you just have to do your best to prove yourself that you deserve a spot And yeah, and well, another question I also wanted to ask you, like essentially, what will be like your personal goals for this season? Like it could be like either short term or long term goals. Like what are you hoping to accomplish with obviously Charleston right now, but also like with the Dynamo later on?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like that's something that I think about quite often. I always try to set goals for myself, even no matter how small they are, even every day in training. But my bigger term, my bigger term goals for the year are to become an established starter on the team. Sometimes when you're coming through a system as a center back, sometimes the coach obviously will go with their more experienced players in the harder games, and that's something that I'm fighting every day to prove to the coaching staff here as well as in Houston, the fact that I can play on this level consistently and be reliable. But yeah, I mean, I'm really, that's my number one goal, is to become an established starter on the team. And I have also like numbers in terms of I want to keep a certain amount of clean sheets. Obviously now I want to score a few more goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, you shoot for those little things, and then with Houston, obviously I want to come back whenever that may be, and just really start to make things difficult for the coach in terms of like, should Erik be starting? And I think I've developed a whole lot since I first came here, and especially since I first signed. And then I think the coaching staff in Houston recognize that, and they know they want me to get experience here. So obviously those are my goals on the club level. And then I eventually, like I said before, really want to get into a national team camp, wherever country that might be.
Thailand maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good segue going into the questions from Twitter, because one of the first questions was from Ty, essentially asking if obviously you mentioned that you had contact with the Swedish Federation, but you had to like turn it down at the time. But if you had like also any contact from U.S. Soccer, and if you're still like considering being open to like making a national team appearance at some point eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think obviously the national team has been a dream for me since I've been young, and I sometimes get the question quite a lot, like, oh, Erik, what would you choose? Because there's so many players now with dual citizenships that have to they face the same issue, and honestly, I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about it, and it always is a very difficult decision. But I think I will always have to come back to the country that I was born in, and it'll have to be Sweden, just because even though the U.S. has done so much for me, like helped me realize so many of my dreams, I feel like I couldn't turn my back on my country that I was like born in, had like so many like bloodlines linking back to Swedish relatives, and I think that's just what feels right. So I think that's what I would choose in terms of if it was like a 50-50 like a decision and I was forced to make one, to like make my senior debut. But I think it would be Sweden. Yeah.
So you hold Swedish citizenship, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hold both.
Is that ever something that's come through your head? Maybe one day that could be an easier avenue to possibly get transferred to the Swedish league or dip your toes into Europe that way?
Yeah, it was funny because at the beginning of the season, we were already discussing like loan opportunities for me and what exactly we wanted to do with it. And I actually told Matt during the negotiations that if I could spend a year in Sweden playing maybe in Allsvenskan or the second division, maybe that'd be really good for me, just to like live in my home country, just because I'd never actually lived and been established there.
Yeah.
Spent summers and winters and stuff. But yeah, we had a few connections there, and they didn't end up going through. But I think eventually, who knows what the future may hold. But having the European citizenship has been very, very helpful in terms of travel, and I know like being able to transfer to a team in Europe, it just helps so much more for them if I have an EU passport. So
yeah,
obviously for the future, I think it would be very useful if it ends up going that route.
I mean, yeah, like you said, Aronson and Reynolds.
Yeah.
These guys kind of went from 0 to 100 in the span of like 6 months, 8 months. Mm-hmm. So things can happen quickly. So that's definitely something super, super great to have.
Yeah, it definitely does happen quick in football. You have to always be ready for it.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just respectable. Like, if I was in the same position, I would also just, like you said, not turn the back towards my country, and I would honestly do the same if I was in the same boat. If I ever had to like face a decision, which is, but like I said, pretty honorable. And
yeah, I feel like a lot of people nowadays, or a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people have dual nationality, and then in football, a lot of people are like, oh, how can you turn your back on your birth country, especially with the national team?
Yeah.
People are freaking out about dual nationals all the time. But I mean, it's like, I feel like it's a modern problem now. Personally, I don't think it's too bad if you go with a team that's going to give you the playing time or the most chance to get in a World Cup or something. I think a lot of people are coming around to that too, because I think before it was very much like patriotism. How can you turn down the U.S.? How can, it's
for
funny
sure.
how it's changing.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard decision. Like, I think if I was ever in like the situation where I had to choose one, like, it would be so tough, just saying no to a national team that's interested. And I think obviously that's what I'm working towards, is to one day be able to make that decision. But we'll see what the future holds one day.
Yeah, and another question coming from Atai on Twitter essentially was that, has Tab Ramos ever give you like a certain outline that he was looking for, like during your long time at Charleston, essentially things that he's looking forward to, like over the course of the loan stint? And if so, would that be, or essentially what he wants to see from you to give you like a shot in the first team?
Yeah, I think Tab, to be quite honest with you, he is a very like attacking oriented coach. Like, I think a lot of the things he values very highly are like attacking players. I mean, he's told me like he just loves wingers. Like he loves, I think obviously it goes back to,
we've noticed.
Yeah, how he was, when he was playing in his career, like scoring so many goals. But basically for me, I've had a lot of conversations with him and the assistant coaches, as well as Matt Jordan, before I left. And, we've had a plan, kind of like what, I guess, final product they're looking for in regards to me. And, they know that I have a lot of like the physical stuff down, in terms of, the physicality, like pace and everything like that. That's something that they never really had to worry about with me. But they've really just wanted to see me become a reliable defender and just being reliable in possession. Those two things have been their main focus for a center back, because, when I first came in, I feel like I had a lot to prove. And that always happens with young players, especially when they don't have their like all their stuff sorted out, at the beginning. And I kind of always wanted to do too much, kind of like dribbling through too many players, trying to play that hard pass, and almost putting myself in like worse situations just because I wanted to look better for myself and for the coaches, and prove to them that I was as good as I thought I was. But now that I've matured a bit more, I kind of began to understand exactly what they're looking for. And even if they haven't said every single thing to me, like I kind of understand too who I want to become as a player, and our values are very much aligned, because Tab really likes center backs that are comfortable driving forward the ball, splitting lines, and being able to be comfortable in possession. So I know those are all values that I can exhibit quite a lot, but what I'm focusing on is just consistency now, just being able to be reliable all the time, be good on the ball, and be able to use all the tools I have to help the first team, eventually, whenever that may be.
I know the communication probably, isn't always there because you're on loan and stuff, but I'm sure you're talking to Matt Jordan or some of the assistant coaches. But like, in all honesty, do you see a path going forward for yourself at the Dynamo, breaking through?
Yeah, I think honestly that I have a lot to offer as a center back and as a player in general. Like, I think that's something I've never really wavered in throughout my career. And I know when I was at training or playing in training games, like I know they saw stuff that they liked. So that's never really been an issue for me. But, I think I have my sights set on next year really breaking through. I have obviously my own goals, like I've spoken to you guys about before. But you can obviously hope for a whole lot and want to make it happen, but at the end of the day, you have to prove it in training. You have to show have to show the coaches, and
Yeah.
they're not going to do you any favors. Like, no one's going to do you any favors in this world. So I think it's definitely I'm definitely focusing on being able to prove it to them and really make them feel that I've matured and grown a lot.
For sure, man. We don't want to keep you too much longer. I know we originally said it was gonna be last, but we'll just have like one or two more questions and let you go.
Yeah, it's no problem.
We appreciate just
Yeah, I was gonna
flowing so far.
Yeah, I was gonna segue to the last question from Twitter, which is essentially which we touched upon, going back to the short-term and long-term goals, and this one from Chipito back on Twitter, which is essentially, do you see yourself as a starter for Dynamo within the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think there aren't too many center backs in the league that are starting at a very young age, but I want to be one of those that are rare. I really want to show how much I've learned and how much I've grown, because like I said, I played against Atlanta in that preseason game. I've played against MLS opposition before, and obviously training every single day and with Houston, and it's something I'm not worried about. Like, I know as soon as I step on the field, everyone's even. It's an even playing field. So
For sure.
I know with some of the stuff I have, like, I would not be worried to step on the field. I'd be very, very excited to see how well I could do against some of the forwards in the league. So I think one day for sure, when I'm able to get on the field, I'll be really, really excited to see how I do.
Yeah,
and we hope so too, honestly.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We're
calling out for. I feel like so many of the fans just want like a homegrown to break through, and I mean we have Memo right now, but Memo kind of was like a little bit pre-academy days as well. I feel like everybody just calling out for somebody to break through and become a fan favorite. But before we let you go, we just kind of wanted to know also a little bit about you off the pitch. We know, you got signed at a young age. You didn't end up going to Wake Forest, but are you currently studying to get a degree? Or are you just focusing on football and pretty much outside of the field? What are you interested in career-wise or just hobby-wise?
Yeah, right now I'm doing the online classes for Southern New Hampshire University. I know a lot of the homegrown players throughout the league recently have been doing that. I've been doing that since I've been signed. Well, actually, no, not since I've been signed. I was in high school for the last bit of my first year. But since then, I've been doing online classes for business administration, and really I kind of selected a degree that's like, what is like the widest reaching degree that could be applied to after football. And I mean, honestly, the more and more I've been playing, I've been feeling like there's almost no way I could step away from football like in my life later on. And a business administration degree will maybe help me in terms of managing maybe inside the club, or being maybe a GM or something like that much later on. And those are things that you can almost get dizzy thinking about, just because it's so far in the future.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, off the field, like, I have a lot of little hobbies that I like to do quite a bit. Sometimes they just like surprise people, but first of all, I love playing games. Like, that's a really good way for me to disconnect from football. Sometimes you have to take a step back. I played quite a bit of piano. I took lessons when I was younger, and picked it back up again, and it's kind of like a little bit of a therapy for me. And I draw, and obviously hanging out with friends and everything like that, just staying in contact with family. Those are most of the stuff I do off the fields, and obviously watch some shows too. So
stream some Warzone was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, Chicharito's streaming Warzone too, so check that out.
I don't know how good he is, but I've never checked it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's good. It's good to see that off the field. It's always good to disconnect sometimes from what happens on the field to essentially have an understanding of what's around you. Of course, family and friends, and essentially just to take a break. But like it's been a great interview. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better, and Tony and I are just like hoping the best for you, like whatever happens this year and forward, and we just hope for the very best.
All right, thank you guys. No, it was really good to get on the call, and if you want to message any of my teammates, I'll definitely make sure to give a good referral for you guys, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, we would definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man.
So yeah, that was our first interview, player interview with Erik McCue. He, even though it was a pretty long one, like we said, it was a pretty thoughtful one from his part, like giving us time to go through his personal story, how he got to Houston, and his road to where he is right now in Charleston, and what's to come. Obviously, like, it was a pretty good interview in the sense that we got to learn a lot about him, and just like everything has to go through his development over the course of time, and him being like one of the few homegrowns we have right now. It was pretty thoughtful. I don't know what Tony would like to say. Like, he has some personal questions to ask to Erik McCue there, but like he felt it too. He felt the vibes.
It was a deep conversation. We're all Dynamo brothers now, or something. But no, if you listen to the end right now, you're for sure a real one, and we will send you 100K of GAM and TAM to your bank accounts accordingly.
And so in NFTs.
Please send us your credit card information, front and back.
Also the NFTs, yes.
Yes, and we'll send money, but no, definitely. Without, like, I know it's something cliche people always say, but Erik definitely, you can tell he's got a great head on his shoulders, super humble, and he's just ready to put his head down and do the work. So I mean, I know a lot of Dynamo fans are super anxious to see more homegrown succeed, and I think it's just a question of time for Erik to get more playing time, and once he's back in Houston, I think it's going to be the real deal. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and stay noodle.
Stay noodle.